Hey, welcome along to Top Shelf Tech. I'm Jeremy Nees, the Chief Operating Officer at the Instillery, and today I'm going to talk about turning your ZTA or Zero Trust Network Access solution into a VPN and what you can do to turn that back into a Zero Trust Network Access solution. So, look, the crux of this is really around often when we've rolled out Zero Trust Network Access solutions, we've had to do that often expediently. We've had limited project budget, or it might have been something like during COVID, we had to quickly establish new access methods. And so we've rolled something out with the intent to come back and tune that later. Started very coarse-grained, got everything working, made sure the platform's functioning the way we expect. And then we haven't actually got around to coming back and tuning that and tightening up all our policies. So what are we trying to achieve with Zero Trust Network Access? Firstly, we're trying to remove attack surface, so get rid of stuff like VPNs that attackers can look to compromise. We're trying to follow that principle around never trust, always verify. So is the identity connecting here who I expect? Are they behaving how I expect? And finally, we're trying to set very granular access policies to our applications. However, often what we might have ended up with is VPNs left open for things like legacy applications, sometimes hosted with third parties or where they need bi-directional communication. We might have done set up limited and one-time only verification and validation policies. So you authenticate and that's kind of it. You're part of the organization, so you get access, and we haven't really defined our profiles anymore granularly. And then finally, we end up with a permissive policy. I describe this as sort of the equivalent of a firewall's any, where we said, look, any identity can access anything with this domain on these ports. So we haven't really gone and tightened that up and been very clear on who can access what. So what can we do about this when we end up in this state? So I'm going to talk about Zscaler Private Access, Zscaler's Zero Trust Network Access solution, and some enhancements that they've made in the product over the years to help us tune our policies and get that zero trust posture. I'm just going to touch on what these features are rather than delve into them, and then you can go back later and look at the links there that will talk a little bit more about them. So firstly, Intelligent App Segmentation. This is a Zscaler feature where it can go and identify in your policies where you can actually make more fine-tune your policies, create new policies, so it'll make some recommendations based on what you've got configured and based on what it's seen from a traffic flow perspective. So very powerful feature, and takes a lot of the hard work out of defining those policies. Second one is policy multi-match. So initially we had to have pretty much a direct exact match on a policy in Zscaler. This allows you now to have those kind of hierarchical policies where you can get multi-match on a policy to give a user access. Again, it just makes it a lot simpler to fine-tune and end up with some granular access policies without breaking everything. Adaptive policies, this is where we can start to bring in stuff like user behavior changes, where the risk score might change around a user, and start to adapt our policies so we don't end up with a session that can actually be quite a long running session where we don't revalidate. So adaptive policies help us get that constant feedback. Our access policy criteria, this is where we define our policy and start to bring in stuff like adaptive policies and device posture profiles. Can also define things like, what kind of, where could you connect from, what kind of Zscaler client versions could you have in place, which, allows you to start to say things like, look, if we don't have Macs in our environment, you shouldn't be allowed to connect with a Mac, because we know that's not really, that's not going to be a corporate device, and we don't, therefore, aren't going to trust that. Device posture profiles, this goes even deeper. This allows us to now start looking at what's on the device, the version of, say, CrowdStrike, and what the policies or the update that's got in place. Start to bring this into our overall posture to go, should this device be able to have access? So quite a powerful feature there. And finally, Zscaler Deception. So this can be used with ZPA, where in effect it injects lures within the ZPA session and starts to test. So if you've got a compromised device and somebody's an attack is actually trying to get through to now your applications, they might end up hitting in a lure, and that's going to give us a signal that this isn't what we'd expect from that device. So it all helps us with that kind of ongoing behavioral analysis and policy adaptation. Two newer enhancements coming as well that will really help in this space. These were announced recently at Zenith Live. The first one being legacy app access. So this is where we might have VPNs still in our environment, client to server VPNs, where we've got them for legacy applications like voice over IP, which might require bi-directional communication. So this will help us remove those use cases that previously weren't supported with Zero Trust Network solution. And secondly, here are new features, business partner apps. So this is where we might have a business partner that's hosting a third-party app for us. So it could be like a CRM system. We can't deploy an app connector into their environment. Therefore, we end up with something like an IP whitelist to say you can access, our people can access that environment through our office or something like that, or it might end up with, again, a VPN connection. So again, this just allows us to remove some of those legacy components. Now, this works by the third party from the data center or hosting environment being able to build an IPsec VPN tunnel back into the Zscaler cloud, and then we can start to manage our ZPA policies as we would an application in our own data center. Right, so if I was to lay these features out then in terms of that high-level zero trust architecture and how it helps us moving from left to right, we have device posture profile checks that help us understand what's on the end user device and is that something we want to allow. We have these two new features coming around legacy app support and business partner VPN. This should help us remove some of those use cases for keeping old VPNs around and keeping that attack surface around. From a policy perspective, we have our access policy criteria, which again takes some stuff into account like our device posture profiles, but also stuff like adaptive policies around end user behavior and risks scoring in there as well. We have deception then that's going to put out lures, so we can understand if somebody on a device has compromised that device and is trying to access things in our environment that they shouldn't. And then right across to the very right-hand side, and I think this is where we can make some of the biggest gains often, is intelligent app segmentation and policy multi-match. So hopefully that's been helpful and giving you some ideas around how you might be able to fine-tune your zero trust network access solution and make sure that you're getting the value that you expect out of it, and you haven't ended up with an expensive VPN replacement. So thanks a lot for joining us today. Hopefully that was useful. Feel free to drop feedback or questions into the comments section, or reach out to your Zscaler account managers or support people for more information on these features. Thanks.